He was given only months to live, and she was struggling to heal from a painful loss, but God brought them together at a time they least expected it. Jeremy and Sue Broshear join us now to share their unlikely love story. Thanks, guys, for coming into the studio and being with us. Really glad you're here.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy, let's start with you. So
Sure.
at age 25, you found yourself in a really desperate situation. Addicted, homeless, kind of hopeless in some ways. What happened in your life to get you to that point?
Well, the easiest way to say it would be that I grew up in a family, a normal family, Christian family. My mother passed away when I was 11 years old, and I was very close to her, and I was not, I had a hard time relating to my dad and my brothers. So when she was gone and out of the picture, I felt super alone. There wasn't a lot of relation for me. And so I usually, I was telling Sue, I phrased it this morning as kind of like the opposite of James 1. It's this compounding of things. So that loneliness from losing her led into depression, and then that depression led into substance and suicide. And then it just seemed to spiral and spiral. And before long, I had just burnt a lot of bridges, and I was in this homeless shelter wondering what in the heck happened with my life. And the alcohol, which had been my crutch or my kind of escape for a while with the depression and the suicide, eventually it became my poison. And so health-wise, it only lasted so long. And I got to the point where, like you said, I had literally been told by a doctor that I had been given 6 months to live.
Yeah. So what turned it around for you? I mean,
well, you know, Jesus, for one, but it's just like, only he could be able to create a story as miraculous as what happened. Because as creative as I like to be, I'm not as creative as Jesus is.
Right,
but
right.
What ended up happening was I had, like I said, I burnt a lot of bridges. And so my dad had just said, look, you can't live here. He was suffering with his own cancer, and stress is terrible for cancer. So he said, I want to help you as much as I can, but I can't help you while you're here. And so I ended up in this homeless shelter. And so I went to an Alpha course there, went to a few Bible studies, because he said, you know, I'm sending you to this Christian ministry. I was very bothered by this because I was a very stubborn agnostic at the time.
Okay.
While I was grown up in a Christian family, I turned away from it as soon as my mom passed away.
Right.
And ironically, the one thing that could have helped me was the one thing I was trying to avoid like the plague. But then when I went to His Mansion Ministries, which is where I was saved and where I had found my healing, it was amazing the process that had fallen through that. While I had spiraled out through my mistakes and my pains, it was almost like a spiral the other way once I met Jesus, because everything seemed to happen super quick and with such power.
You just experienced freedom from all of that?
And I actually went there. It was a year-long program, and the amazing part was I went there not actually even expecting to live through the program, because like I said, I was given 6 months, and it's a year-long program. And what was miraculous about that is that Jesus decided, not only am I going to give you your spiritual healing, I'm going to give you your physical as well. Wow. I've since gone to taken physicals where they've told me, like, we don't even see signs of the cirrhosis of the liver. None of that physically is even shown anymore. And only God can have that medical change that just we can't explain in human terms.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, praise God.
Amazing.
I love that. I love that. Like when you think all is lost, I mean, physically, mentally, emotionally, right? Spirit, He restores it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as you said, accelerated restoration. I love that. Well, Sue, you have your own story. As a young girl, you gave your life to Christ, but then you experienced a tragic loss, which led to illness in your life. Tell us your story.
So the way I describe my story to people is it's sort of like a tapestry, and there's different threads woven through it, and the two that are most predominant would be grief and grace. And so how that plays out, yes, like you said, I grew up in a Christian home, an unexpected tragedy happened when I was 20 years old. So we found out that my mom, who I was very close with, was diagnosed with brain cancer. Wow. We had no idea this was coming. And when my dad and her came home from the hospital with the diagnosis, they said it was weeks or months that she had left to live. And so it was just devastating for, my younger sister, my dad, as well as our extended family and friends. We didn't know what to make of this. Yeah. My mom, however, this is where the grace piece comes in. She was a woman of such incredible, vibrant faith and joy and love. And so she started to count every day past that diagnosis as a bonus day from God. And so God gave her 42 bonus days to be able to live and to do life together as a family and to share his love with anyone that would listen to her. So in many ways, God brought something so tragic, but he brought beauty out of it, like beauty from ashes. All of us experience grief in our life in many different forms. And the one thing I always try to communicate to people that I'm talking with is don't ever judge anyone's grief journey, because it's such an individual path that we all take. And, we need to give each other grace as we walk through that. So for myself, grief was manifested very physically in my body. So 4 weeks after my mom passed away, I had my first seizure, grand mal seizure. Again, not expected. It was really difficult on my family to walk through that. And from that point on, there's a diagnosis of epilepsy, and chronic fatigue was part of that journey. And so that's been ongoing. It's still something I deal with. I don't have seizures frequently, but when they do happen, they're pretty severe and they take a long time to recover from. So how I've seen the Lord kind of work through that piece of grief in my life is just teaching me that my identity is not in my strength, not in my capabilities or my accomplishments, because my life has looked very different than I thought it would, obviously, without mom. A lot of health challenges, but I've learned to rely on that verse, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness, because I've had to lean into the Lord in a way that I don't think I would have if I hadn't walked through those challenges. So it's been something that was actually a fusing piece for Jeremy and I both. Sorry, this part's hard to talk about. I'd never met anyone who had lost their mom as well. So when Jeremy and I met, just the fact that he understood that grief, it definitely drew us close together and strengthened our own faith in the Lord.
Well, it's a beautiful love story, and there's more to it. We're going to be right back with Sue and Jeremy and this incredible story and all that God has done.
Praise the Lord, all you nations. Extol him, all you peoples. For great is his love toward us, and the faithfulness of the Lord endures forever.
Well, we are back with Sue and Jeremy. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. I think there's so much power when we can tell our stories, and especially what God has done. Despite circumstances and obstacles, I think you've empowered a lot of people to just explore their own faith and the things that happen to us in life. So thank you so much for that. And what I love about your story, you said it, he takes beauty out of ashes. And so actually that transitions into what I want to talk about next is your business, because you make beautiful things out of things that maybe would have been discarded. And so talk a little bit about this family business that you are endeavoring in.
Thank you. So the Handy Carpenter was birthed out of a desire for our family to be able to have more freedom and flexibility, and Jeremy's passion for woodworking, which has been ongoing for many years. And so we just thought maybe we can mesh, my background was sales and marketing, and Jeremy's passion to just build creative, beautiful things that other people can appreciate, and also make it a whole family experience. So our children are very much involved in the business as much as we are. So that's a really neat experience to share together. So what the Handy Carpenter is we create kind of custom, handcrafted wood products, primarily as gifts to be able to enrich people's lives and to build better relationships. So often they're used as corporate gifts to thank clients or staff members, but also as personal gifts as well. So we try to encompass kind of a broad range of clients.
Well, they're beautiful, first of all. But there's more to the product, which we're going to ask you about in a minute. you have a community focus in mind here. This business isn't just about your family and making some money, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So you might have picked up on a little bit of the story that Jeremy was at his mansion for a big chunk of his healing. That's actually where we met. You know, I don't think my mom would be proud that I met my husband at rehab, but that's how the Lord works. And it was just such a beautiful intersection of our lives at that point. But part of what God did while we were there is he gave us such compassion for the marginalized. He opened our eyes to see people coming out of prison and off the streets and meeting Jesus and experience his healing and his power. And so that has always birthed in us a desire to want to give back and to pour into other people's lives. So that's a big part of the Handy Carpenter. So 10% of what we receive, we're going to be able to channel that to help other people. The two missions that we're partnered with right now our Open Arms Mission, which is a Niagara-based food bank, and then also the International Justice Mission, which is worldwide, helping men and women and children out of slavery.
Wow.
So we're excited to be able to, channel what God's given us, our creative ability, to help other people.
Well, it is beauty from ashes, isn't it, Bill?
It really is. And I think, again, I think art is a way of expressing the deepest part of us. And for you, this is more than just a business. It's an expression of not only who you are, but also who you'd like to be with God's help. And I love that. So tell us a little bit about some of the products we have here today.
So there's kind of two different segments of products that we brought.
You do. You're very tactile. Go ahead, touch away.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So this segment here, these are kind of the bulk of our products that we sell. So we do offer a lot of charcuterie boards, cutting boards, grill paddles. There's a whole selection, but we just brought a few samplings to show you. So this here is one that we made. We do a lot of custom design for clients.
Okay, I'll hold this for you so you don't drop it.
Look at this.
So this is a cedar charcuterie board to be able
it.
to serve. And so one of our clients wanted something for events that she was hosting. This one is actually for Lori.
What? I saw that.
That's my name on it.
Yeah, so this is our maple charcuterie board, and we'd really like you to have that.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Now, Bill, you didn't get one with your name on it.
That's fine.
But
That's
we know that
amazing.
you are very much about community and gathering people together. So we wanted that one to
Thank
be for you.
you. Look at that. It's beautiful.
Look at the wood grain in it.
You know what I love is because I think eating is designed to build community.
It does,
absolutely, yeah.
And I think we've lost that.
Yes.
So don't just eat, build community,
right.
Yes.
And we do love eating, but thank you so much. It's so kind. So tell us about a few of the other things you have
Sure.
here.
I'm curious about this guy over here.
Yeah, so
Can I
the
pick him
other
up?
selection
Look, it has
of
the
products
stone,
here.
obviously.
This kind of ties in with our kind of the 4 pillars of what our business is about.
Okay.
And those are shop local, shop sustainable, choose custom, and choose community. So this kind of embodies the shop sustainable. So rather than get rid of wood scraps, we have an entire collection that's all upcycled wood products.
Wow.
That we can be able to, make into other
What
things.
does that mean? Where did you get this wood from?
From the shop.
Okay, so
The scrap bin.
wood on the
That's
floor.
right.
Well, say
They
if you
make these beautiful pieces.
see, I'm learning.
if you look at your cutting board, it's defined cuts. It's it's squared off pieces.
Okay.
But say
All the extras.
this would be a live edge that would have been cut off of one of those.
Wow. Tell us about
So this here is a live edge planter. So you can put little flowers or herbs or something like that in there. Put it in your windowsill.
Carlene's going to love that, Bill. You got to
She
get
is
So
gonna
that's
love
kind of
that.
a unique
Well,
one.
And I love the idea. So instead of just throwing wood away, you use everything you have and make it into art.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the beautiful coasters.
And then these
Look at the
are
color in
live
there.
edge coasters that are made from, again, just a variety of different wood pieces.
So nice.
Okay, and
Now
this
this
one
is my
obviously
favorite. I
tells
love
a
this
story.
one. Yes.
And it's connected.
And Jeremy's designed all of these. Yes, it's connected.
I
So we
love
call
that.
that the empty tomb, Easter decor, and it's become
Love
very
this.
popular.
Yeah.
So just a nice way to tell the story. One of our
Yes.
clients actually bought it for her Sunday school class and brought it to be able to tell the story of Easter
That's
to
so
her children.
great. Like, Bill, look, you can close
I
the
know,
door,
that's
you
Friday,
open the door,
Saturday,
you know?
Sunday,
Right?
You know what day of the week it is. Just move
That's
everything
right.
around. Well, you know what I love too, because this actually ties into your story. I was just thinking about this in a really powerful way. That the parts of our life that maybe feel like they've been cut off or are not worthy of anything should be discarded.
Right.
God is able to transform it into something really beautiful.
Absolutely.
And I think, when people think about these things or purchase them, they can actually remind themselves of that. Every time I look at that, I'm going to think, yeah, God doesn't throw anything away. And so
He
that
uses
is
our
so
pain for his glory,
beautiful.
doesn't he?
Well, even
So
biblically,
true.
like I think a lot of some of the strongest characters that God uses in the Bible, say Paul, for instance, his biggest strengths as before he was a follower, became his biggest strengths as a follower.
That's
He
right.
became instead of the biggest opposition, he became the biggest advocate for Christ, you know, and so
that's what God does.
Yeah.
So good.
And look what God can do with your story, with your life, how you're pouring now into blessing other people. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you
This
for
was great.
incredible
Thank you.
enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Glad to be here.
It's just a delight to have you here, and I hope that's really encouraged you. You know, for more about the Handy Carpenter, Sue and Jeremy, go to 700club.ca.